when will Pulsechain launch? Now, here's an update from the Hex conference talking about exactly where the progress in regards to Pulsechain development is.
Yeah, I'm seeing screenshots of a staking launchpad for V3. So like V3 is so close.
Right out the bat, Richard Hart is releasing some alpha, telling us that testnet V3 is very, very close. Now, testnet V3 is actually in private testing right now. If you watch the whole video, Matty Allen spoke about how he is testing his smart contracts on testnet V3. So that's another step getting us closer to the launch of Pulsechain. But it's not that simple. There's also a lot of complexities in regards to Pulsechain launch and when V3 testnet will be out for the public.
But look, every time I've said that, it's been terribly late. So, and there's other stuff, like if you want people to be able to run their own nodes, like even on Ethereum, right? So you heard about, God, what are they called? Consensus owns MetaMask, which runs its transactions through Infura. There you go. So you heard about Infura, like saying, oh yeah, well, like we log. And you're like, wait a second, it's not cool. And so if you're smart, you run your own validators. Your own node, and then you go to Ethereum's website and you're like, all right, let's run our own node. It doesn't work. Like the crap they tell you to do, it doesn't work. So like, unless you're a dev yourself, really hard to run an Ethereum node. And so on Pulsechain, you know, we have the script that will make it easy for a human running Windows to run their own nodes, you know, and then you're not worried about Infura logging your transactions.
Now, what Richard Hart is saying here is a heart stopper. He's telling us that he wants to improve Ethereum, right? Now, the reason why this is so frightening is simple. Developing on Ethereum is extremely hard and it takes a lot of time. And if he wants to now improve some of the things on Ethereum, that's great. But then that would mean that potentially extending the launch time of Pulsechain. Some of these things, granted, they might be really necessary and needed for Pulsechain, but it doesn't change the fact that when we start hearing things like, you can't do this on Ethereum right now, people need to be able to run their full nodes. When you start hearing things like that, to me, it shouts more complexity, more development time. And
well, now that I've buttered you up, I've got one question regarding, it was kind of related to what Crispy Man was saying about EIP 4844, and it's like the whole Ethereum staking thing. So I heard some developers kind of speculating about, well, you know, the ETH devs would probably need to finish that EIP for whatever to allow ETH withdrawals before, you know, Pulsechain can allow ETH withdrawals, but I guess this can just be like a yes, no, or I don't know. But like, is that something that we're waiting on the Ethereum side?
I haven't
for
heard
ETH
of that.
withdrawals to be a thing before Pulsechain withdrawals can be a thing?
I would find that.
It'd be weird that it never came up yet.
Yep, true. When V3 launches, I'll let you know whether people can unstake or not.
I'm gonna fan fiction narrative that's
welcome to
not
I
a
wish
big
I
deal.
was a dev. I'm not sure. I have to check with devs.
okay, we've got Crypto Coffee buttering up Richard Hart. Great stuff, great stuff. However, the question that he raises is one that I'd never thought about before, but it really is an important question. Unstaking. Will we be able to unstake our Pulsechain? Now, I never thought of this, but if you think about it, we're forking ETH 2.0 right now. And ETH 2.0, the people who staked Ethereum for ETH 2.0, they still cannot access their funds. Remember guys, ETH 2.0 was launched in 2020, and since then people still can't unlock their coins that are staked. So if we're forking ETH 2.0, it means the same thing. We potentially will not be able to unstake those coins, meaning more complexity. Now we're going to listen to another clip from Katie from Power City, another very hardcore Pulsechain, talking about the complexities in forking ETH 2.0 instead of BSC, which were initially supposed to fork Binance Smart Chain.
So when the previous fork got scraped, so essentially it was a Binance fork with ETH implementations, and they had nearly finished that one. And then ETH 2.0 came out. ETH 2.0 is actually two chains. So there's ETH 1 and ETH 2, which have just been renamed now by the Ethereum Foundation. So it's now called an execution layer and a consensus layer. And then there's a third party API that sits in between them two, which is the engine API. And the engine API is just a JSON script that allows them to communicate securely. The execution layer essentially fills the blocks, and the consensus layer is what you would have previously known, well, no, the consensus layer is the new layer and the execution layer is the old ETH. So the consensus layer just selects blocks that are pre-filled by the execution layer and pushes them through. And you need at least 2 clients in each layer. And each client had to be reaccounted for in the supply slots for the supply increase. So they had to rewrite 4 clients to account for the supply increase in Pulse, which is actually a huge undergoing, especially if those teams don't want to work with you. And then they have 4 APIs that they need to have working in tandem with each other to have the consensus layer in Pulsechain working. So like it was a big undergoing, and a 6-month delay so far since that last announcement is relatively fair in my opinion.
I've been covering Pulsechain Hex for some time now, and I always say this: if you watch all the old videos, that look, Richard Hart, the way he operates, he thinks long term. So in the long term, what's in the long term best case scenario is to fork ETH 2.0. But what's convenient? What's convenient is forking Binance Smart Chain, because we already had a chain that is pretty much, Binance Smart Chain was pretty much done. Pulsechain testnet right now as it is a fork of Binance Smart Chain, and it's working well. And as far as I've never heard of it having any flaws. But he scrapped all of that to take the more long-term solution, which is to just fork Ethereum 2.0. So I think that's a hard decision to make, but it's a long-term thinking type of a decision. I think that decision, if it works out, will pay out really well.
Pulsechain software is taking longer than I thought. Now, I knew it would take longer than I thought, and I warned everyone again and again and again and again, just like Hex took longer than I thought. But it's fine. It's like, it's taking longer, but it's better. So, cool. Like, what if you're going to make things better, bear market's a great time to make things better.